What it requires is that growth mindset. We need to identify that spark and let it blossom. Each child will blossom. It is totally dependent upon the relationship between the learner and that facilitator. How much the learner wants to know, the facilitator is going to help that learner.
Hi, welcome to Yellow Slate, your very own school search engine that helps you find the best schools for your kid based on various filters and parameters. Today, we are Ms. Noopur Sarin, who is the PYP Coordinator at Amrita International Vidyalayam, which is in Huskur and Choodasandra. Let's speak to her and understand more about the school and also talk about the general concerns that a parent is likely to have while joining their kid in an IB curriculum school. Thank you so much for joining us, ma'am.
Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you, Santan. Thank you.
Ma'am, we've heard about your background where you're into legal studies and also the management. So can you talk a little about your profile before we delve deeper into the school?
Sure. Thank you, Santan. That's a real nice opportunity because I can show that how the IB lifelong learner is. I'm a company secretary by profession and qualification. I used to teach in a college and now I'm in the PYP years, helping our students, those young learners, to move from here to become the entrepreneurs for tomorrow.
That's very, very interesting. And do you see the challenges to be different while teaching the older graduates or postgraduates versus teaching the younger kids? What sort of challenge, how are the challenges different here?
It is a very reflective question that you've asked. The challenge is here is that you have to model the behavior. There you are more teaching, but here you have to model what you believe in. So you have to really live that learner, you have to live that profile that you want the learners to be.
Got it. And see, how much ever you try to empathize, at the end, every class will have learning people with different learning abilities. Some people learn quick, some people will take a lot more time to learn. So how do you cater to these students who are a little slow in terms of learning?
I would not say them as slow. I would call them as different learners, differential learners. Luckily, in our IB program, we cater to all learners. We believe that every child has something special. What it requires is that growth mindset. And we just need that spark. We need to identify that spark and let it blossom. Each child will blossom. Now, when I say differential learners, some learners are visual learners, some are auditory learners, some really learn just by doing things, hands-on learners, as we call them kinesthetic. So what we do is we have various learning aids. So how we teach in a class is through explanation games, through step inside. Our strategies are not just written pen and paper. So depending on the learner, a simple thing like peel the fruit, where what you're learning from that base, from the top goes in. So it excites the learner. He will catch up. There are learners, as you said, who are not very keen on listening. They want to do hands-on. So we have in our class mascots. So students like to teach them. And you will be surprised, they make this chair and doll for the learner. They think there is one more buddy in the class and they want to teach him. There could be learners like this. Every learner is special. So we have all these differentiation in the class for all kinds of learners.
That's very, very interesting to know. And for laymen like us who don't understand the jargon of IB so much, can you tell us how this PYP, MYP and DI, how are they all different?
True. It's interesting because we feel that IB is something new. It has come through Western culture. I would like to negate it. IB comes from our culture. If you look at our own custom, like if you look at Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, learning was through conversations. IB is about conversational learning. It is totally dependent upon the relationship between the learner and that facilitator. How much the learner wants to know, the facilitator is going to help that learner. It is all conversational. When I say that IB it is stemming from our custom, I can say that it got that formalized version in the year 1968 and so. In India, the first school of IB was in 1970, and it was some Kodaikanal International School.
Yes.
And then we had first was that career program. We had DP, diploma program. Then came the MYP in 1994. And from there came the PYP in 1997. So now PYP seems relatively new, but the philosophy behind IB is what is in our culture.
Got it. So speaking about PYP, MYP a little further, what sort of assessments happen in IB curriculum and how is it generally different from other syllabi?
Sure. See, in IB, the curriculum has got three parts. One is a written curriculum, that is what the syllabus is. One is it is a taught curriculum, how you're going to teach it, with which I showed you those teaching aids. Then is the assessed. So the assessment in IB can be put in three parts. One is formative assessment, then there is process assessment, and there is summative assessment. Formative assessment is for the assessment where it is assessment for learning. We want the learner to learn something. Whether he has understood or no, we will conduct an assessment. What learned? So we know where is the gap. And we will help the learner to develop that. After we have done the formatives, there is the stopgap where we have assessment as. And then we move to the summative, which is the summary of learning, assessment of learning. Whatever was that process, whatever the learner was supposed to pick up, has he learned it? Then we have a summative assessment. Now, the difference between IB assessment versus any other board. Here, assessment is of four kinds. One is what we said, formative, as, and summative. Then assessment would be performance driven. It could also be written. It could be visual. It could be oral. It could be technology driven. Now you would say, why technology driven assessments? What is this technology driven assessments? Right? So we have the learners making PPTs, PowerPoint presentation as their presentation of what they have. They do role plays as assessment. You cannot do a role play if you haven't understood the concept of what you had to learn. So that is how the assessment is not only pen and paper, but here it is all forms of assessment criteria the learner has.
That's quite interesting. And I'm sure the kind of physical infrastructure plays a very vital role in terms of ensuring that IB curriculum is properly followed in any school. So can you tell the importance of physical infrastructure and also the infrastructure that the school has currently in order to implement IB curriculum in full-fledged manner?
Yes. See, the IB curriculum requires scholastic and also co-scholastic learning. If I break my timetable, I will say 42% of my timetable is actually co-scholastic. So it is 48% is academic driven, 42% is co-scholastic. So what is there and for what I require infrastructure? There is drama, there is yoga, there is PE, physical action, there is music which has got Western and vocal music, there is library, there is art, there is dance, there is STEAM, and there is ICT. This is other than what I have, the sciences, maths, and English. So for this to take place, I need an infrastructure. So we have a swimming pool, we have a STEAM lab. So do not confuse it as that STEM lab, but it is STEAM. Okay. So and we have ICT. So we have tied up with CREA who are helping us with the STEAM lab. So children they're doing robotics. We have the basketball court for the PE. We have basketball court. We have a ground where they're playing football. We have a drama room, and we have a dance room, plus a yoga room. So infrastructure has to be there to really complement and to supplement the learning.
Got it. And we all know yoga is an integral part of the curriculum at Amrita International Vidyalayam. And how does that fit into the overall scheme of things in IB, and how do you manage both?
See, Amrita International believes in the philosophy of education is not just for making a living. It is for life. And to make education worthwhile for a life, the person has to be empowered from within. And this empowerment comes with emotional stability. And this emotional stability comes from that strength. which could be academic and also spiritual. Yoga has that thing which helps that learner to believe himself. It gives that physical and inner strength that he will not be dependent on just external means for his development. Wherever there's a dilemma, the learner has that strength to overcome it. And yoga helps that learner.
Very interesting. And for a parent whose kids are studying in CBSE now or any other syllabus, how difficult would it be for him to now start getting into IB and continue further in IB? How do you see that transformation happening? Is it going to be easy or will it be challenging?
There is a lot of unlearning required. We learn a certain way, but to develop a certain way, you again need unlearning. It is not difficult. It is challenging, as you rightly put in. What is required is for that person to believe that nothing is impossible, everything is acceptable, making mistake is acceptable. You have to work hard, and you have to have critical thinking. You need to start questioning, because IB requires exploration. The whole syllabus is about how good you can run an inquiry, accept the various perspectives, and get that critical thinking to analyze and evaluate situations that you are able to give the best possible solutions. Nothing is wrong and nothing is totally right. You have to accept everybody's view. And that is the biggest challenge when a person comes from another board to IB, feels, what is the right answer? We say every answer is right if you are convinced about it. And it is up to you how much can you support with evidences.
Got it. And speaking of the higher standards, ma'am, a lot of students, especially in their 9th and 10th, are a little anxious about what subjects to choose. And is there any support or guidance from the school that's available to ensure that the kids choose the right path for themselves and also choose what they love?
Definitely. Now, when you say about what they love, IB creates that discrimination in a learner. He understands between what he likes and what is right. Okay? It is important for him to evaluate his strengths. That's what analysis is required. And they do it in grade 8 itself in IB. Because 8th onwards itself, they start selecting their subjects. And to help in that, how to select my subjects, this critical thinking, this explorative, what has been developed in the learner helps him to understand his strength, which is the part of the program. So they are able to select subjects based on this strength. Plus, we also have our own SSC unit, which is the student support unit, which guides the student. At the same time, the teachers in IB, they are just not teachers; they are actually facilitators. They observe. The assessment is all observation. So they observe what is the strength of a child. So they are the best guides and mentors for these students when they have to pick up the subjects. So they will never be left alone. These students, these learners, I won't even call them students because they are learners. These learners are active in the entire participation, and they are guided by the facilitators. So never will they be left alone to just choose and then fumble. There will be support in IB always.
Got it. And generally, what is a typical academic calendar like? In which month does the final assessment happen, and when does the new academic year start for IB?
See, I will speak first about the PYP.
Got it.
Okay. Because PYP does not have an e-assessment or the board assessment.
Okay.
PYP culminates with exhibition. So grade 1 to 5, which is part of primary years program, the final culmination of moving from PYP to middle years is in grade 5, which happens by way of exhibition. And where the learners exhibit whatever they have learned in the 5 years. And it is shown to the community. So the parents, the other schools are invited and they see the learners' presentation. So that is for PYP. Uh, when they go to MYP, there they have their e-assessment. And when they go to DP, again, they have an assessment. So for the PYP, it is exhibition, and the schools are free. As in our case, we have the calendar running till it is following March. So March will be the last. So we are because we are having ICSC, so we are having this. The calendar is till March.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you so much. Because of the time constraint, we couldn't do many more questions, but we would love to connect with you again and speak more about IB curriculum and finer details of it, and also the school. And whatever you have shared so far will be of great help for parents who are looking for good schools to take a right decision. Thank you on behalf of all those parents for coming forward and giving us your time and sharing all these opinions with us.